You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 Gov.biz Radio, a CBS station.
Welcome to Women's Media Center Live. I'm Robin Morgan, and today is quite a special day. We have a major announcement which is coming up in just a minute. But wait, first a word about our guests this week. I mean, wow, substance and star power. This is an unbeatable combo. Connie Schultz, Pulitzer Prize-winning syndicated columnist, author, and activist, who doubtless is also responsible for the very high anti-sexist consciousness of her husband, Senator Sherrod Brown of Ohio. We're going to talk about Ohio as a crucial state in the election. Also, Representative Barbara Lee, Democrat of California, crusading member of the House. She's going to talk about voter suppression and what people are doing about it, and also the recent meeting of the Congressional Black Caucus and particular stuff that they did about women. Then, for a double segment, Jane Fonda on co-founding the Women's Media Center, on her childhood, on my childhood, on aging, men, acting, sex, furnishing a new house, her upcoming roles, and her new boyfriend. But first, behind the headlines. This week, we will go behind our own headline and bring you inside Women's Media Center Live because we have two happy announcements. First, welcome to our new time, Saturdays at 11 a.m. Eastern Time. And second, starting today, September 29th, Women's Media Center Live airs on CBS radio station 1580 Gov.biz in the nation's capital, Washington, D.C. and environs. Of course, each Saturday morning at 11, our national and international listeners can still hear us from our home on the web, WMClive.com, where you can also find podcasts of previous shows. Plus, a few days after each program airs, transcripts will still post on womensmediacenter.com. A personal word for me. Returning to CBS is kind of a homecoming for me. Since I was a working kid actor, and when I was, much of that work was on CBS TV, then the Tiffany Network, the gold standard in television, where I co-starred in The Mama Show for 7 years and appeared on the many live, hour-long dramas during the so-called golden age of television. I wrote about all this in my memoir, Saturday's Child, which was published in 2000. But there are more CBS connections, too. In the 1970s, under the presidency of Arthur Taylor, CBS was unique among the networks. It not only did not fire women employees who had begun standing up for their rights, but it actually encouraged women's caucuses and gave them rooms in which to meet. Under Taylor's aegis, CBS established scholarships at Harvard Business School for female employees who wanted to advance their careers. Lots of secretaries leapt at the chance and emerged no longer secretaries. So this new partnership feels like a good fit. Now, let me introduce us and what we're about to our new listeners. The media is still staggeringly comprised of pale males, so the public gets half the talent and half the story. This program tries to expose the impact this has on men as well as on women and on democracy itself. That's why the Women's Media Center's goal is to make women visible and powerful in the media. Here on Women's Media Center Live, we do a mix of commentary. We do reporting, conversations, insights, stuff. This is a safe house for extraordinary guests, international and U.S., famous and not yet famous, where they can dare to be honest. Lots of lively, very lively, intelligent discussion, but no yelling. And we focus on truths you didn't know you needed to know for survival. We also really like the survival mechanism of laughter. And frankly, we seek the highest common denominator. That's why we're called the talk show with a brain. We're not going to be taking phone calls, at least not at first, but we do have a comment line, and I'd like very much to hear from you. The number is 347-903-WMC1, 347-903-WMC1. And we also check for comments on Twitter, hashtag WMC Live. So to our new friends in the nation's capital, we'll welcome you Saturday mornings at 11 Eastern Time on CBS station 1580 gov.biz radio. And to our web listeners, we'll expect you now on Saturdays at 11 a.m. on WMClive.com. Think of us as a kind of fresh, crisp, intellectual salad bar for smart, famished listeners who are able to think and have fun at the same time. Then join us and munch away. Arugula, edamame. Congresswoman Barbara Lee is the Democratic lawmaker from California's 9th Congressional District. She was first elected in 1998, and since that time she has built a remarkable reputation for being an independent thinker, for her stands, for her principled stands, and for her fearlessness in taking on the roughest issues and speaking out not only for her constituents, but for all women, for people of color, for a more just country, and for a more just world. She was a social worker before she was a congresswoman, and I've often thought she's a social worker for the ills of America. Congresswoman, welcome to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you. Very, very happy to be with you. Thank you for that warm introduction. And let me tell you, my social work skills come in very handy on Capitol Hill.
I bet they do. This year's Congressional Black Caucus Conference focused significantly on African American women, on health and the vote, and all the way from discussions on breast cancer and how it disproportionately affects African American women to obesity and heart disease, and all the way up the scale to the power of the Sister 2012 Roundtable on mobilizing and protecting the black vote, which is under such assault from voter suppression. Can you just let loose and share with us some of those highlights?
Sure. Well, it's very important to recognize, first of all, we have 15 phenomenal black women in the Black Caucus. And these African-American women, for so many years, have worked diligently to really try to change the world. African-American women in the CBC, many are senior members now in terms of their seniority status. Mm-hmm. We have women on every key committee. For example, when we take back the House in November.
I like that when instead of an if.
Yeah. Black women always have to be optimistic and work hard to make sure it happens, which we're doing. Maxine Waters will chair the Financial Services Committee. Congresswoman Eddie Bernice Johnson from Texas will chair the Science and Technology Committee. I mean, can you imagine STEM education and the importance to the African-American community?
It's huge.
Black women?
It's huge.
You know, we have Corrine Brown. We have myself. I'm on Appropriations Committee. We have black women, Congresswoman Yvette Clarke, who's leading the Sojourner movement. Mm-hmm. Unbelievable woman. She'll chair cybersecurity subcommittee. So when you look at policies in our country, just from a Capitol Hill perspective, black women are in key positions and are already making critical decisions that impact our lives. There never would be a focus on reproductive health as it relates to African American women, or breast cancer, or Social Security, when Social Security has been what has kept African American women out of poverty in their senior years. Mm-hmm. There'd never be this focus if it weren't for the black women in the Congressional Black Caucus.
Of course.
And so, you know, that is extremely important. And again, African American women leading the charge on this whole voter suppression effort. Yesterday, we held, under the leadership of another great black woman from Ohio, Congresswoman Marcia Fudge. All across the country, we had voter education, voter protection rallies. I had one in my own district, registering people to vote, warning them of what the dangers are of voter suppression laws, and really raising the alarm, sounding the drum.
Yeah.
So, you know, black women on all fronts we're the biggest and largest and most loyal supporter of the Democratic Party, and oftentimes they just take us for granted. But I think what you're seeing now is a movement that says we're not going to be taken for granted anymore. You got to deal with us.
Right.
We have to leverage our power. And we have to use our power, and black women are doing that.
Wow. A few weeks ago, Eleanor was on Holmes Norton, who's an old friend back from the Women's Caucus in SNCC. Would you believe it?
Oh, yeah. Eleanor's a phenomenal woman. She's a good friend and supporter, and let me tell you.
And so she was one of our very first guests, and we were talking about the same sort of thing, because Eleanor's one of those amazing long-distance runners and keeps on keeping on. That is a powerful phalanx of women that you talk about.
Yeah. Yeah, and black women throughout the country, I hope, really understand their power, our power, and know that this outside-inside strategy is the only way we'll see some justice and some equity and some freedom in the black community, and especially with African American women.
One last thing, because it's such a moving, extraordinary story. First Lady Michelle Obama, in her keynote at the caucus gala, specifically recognized you and your journey, and noted how a segregated hospital refused to admit your mother when she was carrying you. Would you talk briefly about what happened?
I wrote my memoir a few years ago, Renegade for Peace and Justice, and I wrote about what happened. And so many people ask me where my passion comes from. My mother went to the hospital. She needed a C-section, and they wouldn't admit her. Yeah. And it took my grandmother, it took a heck of a lot, which my book goes into, to get her in. But once they got her in the hospital, they left her, as my mother says, on a gurney and didn't pay any attention to her for hours. She passed out. Oh. She almost died. And so finally someone saw her there and took her into emergency on. It was too late, to do a C-section. She was gone. So they didn't know what to do. And literally, I almost didn't get here. And so the doctors decided to deliver me, and they used forceps to pull me out. And I had that scar over my eye until just a few years ago. And that's how I got here. And, it was segregation, and it was the racism in this country that almost kept me from breathing. And so I always say, from day one, I have no option, like many African-American women, and that is to fight for what is right and for justice and for equality.
We are so glad that you were born. And one last very quick question, because we've only got a little bit left. You were the only member of either house, famously, to vote against the use of force after 9/11. And I've been asked, when people learned that I was going to interview you, is she a Buddhist? Does she just believe that no force is never required? What do you think it is? So I'm asking you, what do you think it is?
You know what? Believe you me, I'm not looking at the world through rose-colored glasses, and I am very clear that we need to address terrorism. And any time that we're attacked, we have to respond. That resolution was inappropriate. It was 3 days after the horrific attacks. It was a blank check. What it did was give the authority to any president to use force for any period of time against any country, against any organization, nation. We didn't even know what was going on. So first of all, Congress is the only body that can declare war.
Right.
This is a constitutional issue. You do not give any president the authority to go to war. You declare war. And this was horrible. And I think now, 11 years later, more people see what I meant. It was a blank check. That
lot of people.
Authorization was used to go into Iraq. It could be used in perpetuity. So I have, of course, a resolution now to try to repeal that, because you cannot allow the power of the people to be just dissed.
Well, a lot of people realized it retroactively, but only Barbara Lee realized it actively. So thank you again for being with us, and keep on keeping on, because you're doing remarkable work.
Thanks so much. Good talking with you.
Thank you. Bye-bye now. We're going to take a short break now, during which you can let us in on what you're thinking. Call our comment line at 347-903-WMC1. This is Women's Media Center Live, the talk show with a brain. I'm Robin Morgan. Our next guest is the witty, wise, Pulitzer Prize-winning syndicated columnist Connie Schultz. And Verbal Karate is coming up too, so stick around. Join Carol Jenkins, founding president of the Women's Media Center, for an October 19th conversation about media struggles with race, class, gender, faith, and politics. Jody Evans, chair of the WMC board, Amy Allison, co-executive director of Roots Action, and Rose Aguilar, host of Your Call on KALW 91.7 FM, join Jenkins at the Bioneers Conference in San Rafael, California. For more information and tickets, visit conference.bioneersgroup.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.
I'm so pleased that our next guest is Connie Schultz, who is a nationally syndicated columnist for Creators Syndicate. She won the 2005 Pulitzer Prize for commentary for columns that judges praised for providing, quote, a voice for the underdog and the underprivileged, close quote, which is very true. She is the winner of so many journalistic awards from Harvard, from Columbia, from Scripps Howard, that it would take our entire time just to list them. In 2004, she won the Batten Medal, which honors a body of journalistic work. She's also the author of 2 books, Life Happens and Other Unavoidable Truths. She's very funny. And a book which is a memoir about her husband, Sherrod Brown's successful 2006 race for the U.S. Senate, which has, I think, my single favorite book title of all time. It sums up feminism in 4 words. The title is simply, And His Lovely Wife. So welcome, Connie, to Women's Media Center Live.
Thank you. I am thrilled to join your show.
Well, I know that you're wildly busy because you're active in fighting voter suppression in Ohio. I mean, Ohio has become the linchpin state. Talk about that, and talk also about what you mentioned to me a few days ago about union busting in Wisconsin, which pretty much seemed to succeed, although for the moment the courts have thrown it out, but that you turned it back in Ohio, and you're doing good stuff there.
Well, and we surprised even ourselves with that. So let's start with what happened last year, Robin, because as you know, the law was very similar to the one in Wisconsin, except that it included firefighters and police, which was a really bad move on the part of Republicans here and the Republican governor. And we could not.
You mean the union busting law?
Yes, the union busting law. What it would have done is eliminate collective bargaining rights for all public union employees, which included teachers and public nurses, nurses and any. Right. I mean, it just was a broad range of employees. In Wisconsin, they could recall their governor. We didn't have that option, but we had an option Wisconsin didn't have, and that was a referendum on the on the law itself. And we defeated it by more than 60%.
Wow.
Nobody, even the ones who were supporting us, even the most optimistic among us, did not predict it would be that great of a defeat. And so not only was it important in that it sent a very strong message about how we feel about the collective bargaining rights of workers, but it also laid down a ground operation that remains in place now in the 2012 elections, both in the presidential race and, of course, in the state, Sherrod's race, my husband, in his Senate race. We have a ground operation here that wouldn't have existed without it. And so it was already in place and already up and running at the beginning of the year,
wow,
which was crucial. Now, voter suppression has been a whole other battle here in the state, but we are winning those as well with the court battles. As you'll recall, that the Obama campaign, President Obama's campaign, challenged the Secretary of State when he said they would not have early voting on weekends here, and the Secretary of State had to rescind that. Early voting starts here in Ohio next Tuesday on October 2nd.
Wow,
it is
that's
so
a win.
Important. It's very important in Ohio because if you care about progressive issues, and I do, I always say I was raised with the Jack and Jesus wall. We had Jack Kennedy and Jesus on the same wall. Mom put her faith in Jesus. Dad put his faith in the Democratic Party. He was a union worker. So I grew up with this tradition. So I've always cared about these progressive values. If you care about that, then you care about early voting because It is overwhelmingly a Democratic operation.
It also has a huge impact on older folks, on the disabled, on women, because if you're a mom with small kids, you can't always just get to the polling place in a certain amount of hours. So if you have more options, I mean, it's a whole different ballgame for the outs, the folks who are not necessarily the powerful, who can drive up to the polling place in their limos.
Well, and if your whole goal is to make it as easy as possible for as many eligible Americans as possible to vote, it makes every bit of sense to do this. It makes no sense to oppose it unless you don't want those people voting. I was a single mom for 10 years. I would have loved early voting option. I like going to the poll. I would have loved to be able to go to the Board of Elections and actually cast my vote early. That wasn't an option when I was a single mom here in Ohio.
I think the thing that made the rest of certainly me and a lot of people in the rest of the country completely just hornswoggled was when there was, correct me if I'm wrong, but there was sort of two sets of rules put forward, and I think the Republicans at one point said, yes, well, we'll have early voting in these districts where we know we're strong, and you can't have it,
right,
and those where we know you're strong. It was so blatant that it was blatant.
I think that's what did them in, because any judge, and you don't have to be a liberal judge to see that, to see that it was not going to be an equal playing field, a level playing field, as they like to say, with the sports analogies. Right. And that's exactly right. And so in the predominantly African American or urban poor areas, none of those areas were going to have the same number of hours available for people to vote as some of the more rural conservative areas. Mm-hmm. And so, of course, you could see how that one was going to play out.
And the ground operation you're talking about, say something about that, because it sounds like a model for the rest of the country. You've also had an enormous amount of money pouring in from outside the state, haven't you?
We have, yeah. In fact, it's been reported pretty widely in the last few days that Ohio has more political television ads than any other state in the country. It's a carpet bombing here, and I can use Sherrod's race as an example because he's the number one, identified widely as the number one target of Republicans in a Senate race. He, as of today, because there's just another Karl Rove Crossroads ad has just gone up, they have spent $19.6 million against Sherrod. They started last fall. And they've spent $19.6 million, and I think Sherrod's outside money for Sherrod is about $4.5 million, to give you an idea of the disparity. But the good news is, the Ohio newspaper poll came out on Monday. He's still up by 7 points. The Washington Post poll came out today and said he's up by 12. Now, we're not taking anything for granted, but what I think is important, we know the entire country is watching what's going to happen in Ohio, both in the presidential race and in Sherrod's race, because of the outside money in part, the Citizens United case.
That's right.
And the president right now is also leading in Ohio, despite all this outside money against him. And so if indeed they're watching, because as you know, Robin, no Republican has won the White House without winning Ohio.
I know.
And only 2 Democrats in the last 100 years have won the White House without Ohio. So you've got to win Ohio. That's why they care so much about Ohio. If indeed the president and Sherrod win Ohio, the message will be that voters could not be bought. That is the takeaway message of Citizens United. As much as we feared the money, as much as we've, it just feels like a day, you can imagine, it really does feel like a carpet bombing. It just keeps coming and coming and coming.
Yeah.
But if indeed they are not successful at the end of it all, that is the takeaway message. And perhaps we will see down the road then real campaign finance reform, because the Republicans will discover that what they will realize is this was the huge pushback against them when they thought that voters were that stupid that they could be bought, that you could put up whatever lie you want. And the other story that's not being told, I don't know why they aren't pursuing. I just said this at Kent State University last week at an ethics conference. These television stations keep accepting these ads, even though PolitiFact, Fact Checker, Washington Post, various news organizations have said a number of these ads are just flat out false.
Yeah.
In the case of Sherrod's opponent, he's had more, quote, pants on fires and false than any other Senate candidate in the country, and I think any other candidate in Ohio. And yet they keep taking the money and keep running these ads with these lies.
Which is a violation of, Rush Limbaugh does it all the time, a violation of FCC rules. I mean, it's supposed to be...
That's the question.
Well, it's supposed to be community good, too, and lying to the community, it seems demonstrably to me, not so good.
Well, and I think we can ask these news stations that benefit. I mean, this is their advertising arm that's accepting these, that accepts these ads. And these news organizations, I think it undermines them entirely then as they try to present themselves as objective reporters covering these campaigns.
Yeah, it's really bad for media. Yeah.
Yeah, I think it is. And it's a story that I don't know exactly why. Well, I know why networks aren't doing it, because then they'd have to examine their own practices. They're not going to report it. It really is incumbent upon the print media and bloggers, I think, to start investigating this.
Well, we are Women's Media Center Live, and the Women's Media Center is reporting it. That's for sure. Connie, we're going to have to go. I am so grateful to you for your energy and your vision, and it's so wonderful that every time I communicate with you or talk to you or hear from you, it's like it's like a jolt of electricity. It's wonderful, and I wish you.
Robin, I want to thank you, and you're so modest about this, so humble about it. But you are the reason we changed our schedule around so much so that I could talk to you, because it's you and and what you're doing with the Women's Media Center. So thank you for the work you're doing, because it really matters.
Bless you. Thank you so much. And we're all watching Ohio and rooting for Ohio because it's the fight for democracy, even beyond parties, beyond races. If the people can turn back Citizens United, that's a victory for us all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
And next up is verbal karate. Many of the words spotlighted here are based on the anti-racist, anti-sexist language books and work of Rosalie Maggio, who's collaborating with the Women's Media Center on a new book called Unspinning the Spin. So the verbal karate chop for today is the word minority. At least 4/5 of the world's population are people of color. So this is a statistically incorrect and ethnocentric term. Women, of course, are a majority of the population of almost every country on Earth, as well as being the numerical majority of the whole human species. So the term minority, while used to reinforce the idea of people of color as other, is used way too often as code for African American and Hispanic poor people. If you want to see what a minority really isn't, there's the "if the world were a village" statistic. I don't know if you know it. It's around on the internet, but usually it's around only with men, and some of us disaggregated it by gender, and these are the stats. If the world were a village and its population were comprised of 100 people based on existing ratios, this is who and how they'd be. 53 would be female. 58 would be under age 25. 70, that's 70, would be people of color. 70 would be non-Christian. 58 would be Asians or Pacific Islanders. 21 would be Africans. 21 would be Europeans, of which 14 would be Americans, both South and North. Of the 100, 80 would live in poverty-level housing. 50 of whom would be female, would be illiterate. 50 would be starving or malnourished. 6 would own 59% of all the wealth, and all 6 would be from the U.S. 1 would own a computer, and 1 would have a college education, both from the U.S. So that tells you a lot about the maddening terminology of minority. There's also maddening terminology in, say, the sentence, wealthy white men controlled the financial scene, leaving sidelined women and people of color. Well, do people of color only come in male? Do women only come in white? Or do you identify women specifically by their respective ethnicities, but we're in every one? In fact, an ethnicity wouldn't exist if women hadn't given birth to it. Personally, I wind up saying, leaving sidelined men of color and all women. That's highly imperfect, but at least it's clear. Also, while we're on this subject, if we use the terms African American, Asian American, Native American, and so forth, but then use white as an identifier, well, white comes across as the generic, the real thing, the basic. I use and strongly recommend using the descriptive term European American. European American is accurate and puts so-called white people on a par with the other hyphenate Americans. Last, a verbal karate kick, a talk back to power quote. I'm adding these in because I think they're fun and they get your blood going. This one is, quote, It's the easiest thing in the world to say every broad for herself. Saying it and acting that way is one thing that's kept some of us behind the 8 ball, where we've been living for 100 years. That was Billie Holiday. It's time for another pause, while the tweeps among you can tweet us at #WMC Live. We will be back with actor, author, feminist activist, fitness expert, and many other excellent things, Jane Fonda. This is Robin Morgan on Women's Media Center Live, and we'll return in just a moment. A treat for those in the nation's capital. On October 25th, the Women's Media Center will honor the work and life of journalist Molly Ivins at the arena stage production of Red Hot Patriot, starring Kathleen Turner. Turner joins WMC board member Gloria Felt at a special post-play reception for the Women's Media Center. For tickets, email redhotpatriot@womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.
And we're now with Jane Fonda, who is my dear sister-in-arms and co-founder, along with Gloria Steinem, of the Women's Media Center, and who, as you may have noticed, is also a whole lot of other things. She's coming to us from her new house in Los Angeles. Are you there, Jane?
I'm here. I is here, Robin. Old pal, old pal. Yes, I'm sitting in my new office, which I love because I can look out at nature and nurture, and for nurture, I look across at a picture of my dad at 17 as an Eagle Scout. Drop dead gorgeous, handsome, and next to that is a photograph of him, 65, 70 years later, and me, and on Golden Pond, and they bring me comfort and perspective.
That was one great film.
Yeah.
So the new house is a happy place, yes?
It is a happy, scary place. Scary because I spent, I was shacked up with Richard for 3.5 years in a house that Reagan built, Ronald Reagan, that is, where he had lived for 38 years. And, when you're shacked up, you can just get up and walk away. But we bought a house together.
Oh, that is very scary.
It is, but it's fun. It's a fun house, and we're enjoying it a lot. And I'm getting over my fear, I think.
Well, you're a nester, and you furnish amazingly, and before you know it, it's a whole new home.
Yeah. And this is a solar house, and it belonged to a very great guy, and there were, I'm told, more Democratic Party fundraisers in this house than just about anywhere else in Beverly Hills. So the vibes are good.
Vibes are good. Vibes are, very good. I was just going to suggest that. All right, so listen, let's get some of your accomplishments out of the way, because we could spend 6 hours on the phone just talking about them. Talk about the videos and how come you did the new videos, the new set of videos on fitness and health and stuff for older people, and what's happened with the videos.
Well, I thought I was out of the workout business, frankly, some time ago, but I spent 3.5 years writing a book called Prime Time about how to go through what I call your third act, the last third of your life successfully and healthfully and, in the best way possible. And in the course of I did a lot of research. I traveled all over the country and met with all kinds of doctors and experts. And one of the things that really struck me was the importance of staying physically active. And I mean, people like Dr. Oz would probably say it's the number one important thing. That doesn't mean running marathons and stuff like that, but it means it means getting up and down and remaining independent and going for walks and swimming or riding bikes or dancing. We do a lot of dancing here in this house. This is very important, and it was clearly such a powerfully important thing with age that I decided, who better than moi to go back into the business of making, well, now they're not videos anymore, DVDs, for people who are older or people who have never done it in their lives. And so I began, they're called Prime Time, and there's all kinds of, I've come out with 5. My 5th one is yoga, and it's coming out at the end of the year. And it just warms the cockles of my heart. By the way, you and I should discuss that time what cockles mean. Anyway,
I know.
Cockles of my heart to get, I get feedback from people who are, a woman who she was 80 and her son gave her one of the DVDs and she said, it's changed my life. I've never exercised before and it's made all the difference.
This is, I know you know this, but our listeners might not know, but this is especially important for women because we old women are the largest single demographic in the history of this country, boomer women. And we tend to outlive men. So there are all of these women who have outlived their men and who are ready for 2nd, 3rd, and like cats, 8th lives. And we need to be fit to do it.
That's right. Yeah, we live longer than men on average, about 5 years longer, which has shrunk. We used to live 8 years longer. But we are, people are tending to live longer, a whole second adult lifetime longer. And in that demographic, women are the biggest.
Yes.
Part of the longevity revolution, and it's true. And so if we have this second adult lifetime been granted us, the question is why? What are we supposed to do with it? How are we supposed to use our time? And obviously, if we keep our container strong and healthy and do all we can to remain independent and physically, independent, then everything else comes along with it, our souls, our spirits, huh?
I was just going to say, yeah, it translates into agency, into power, That's
right. The old paradigm of aging was you're born, you peak in midlife, and then you decline into decrepitude, right?
Boring.
And I discovered a new metaphor for it, which is ascending a staircase. Your body may be weakening in some ways, but you are on a spiritual, emotional, psychological level, you're really rising up. You're gaining wisdom, especially if you've paid attention and tried to become wiser and learn from mistakes. And you're happier. One of the reasons I wanted to write the book was because in my mid-60s, I towards the end of my 60s, I realized I was happier than I'd ever been, and I thought, wait a minute, this isn't what I expected.
Me too.
And at that point, I read a quote by Picasso that said, it takes a long time to become young.
Yeah.
And that's, I'm living that. And so I thought, well, am I unique? And I discovered, no, I'm not, that most people over 50, men, women, single, divorced, it doesn't matter, tend to have a greater sense of well-being. I don't know if happy is the right word, but we tend to...
Fulfilled. Contentment.
Yeah. We're not as stressed. We don't hang on to negativities. We see commonalities between people more than differences. We're more forgiving. We don't make mountains out of molehills.
In Prime Time, the book, you also wrote about intimacy and sex, but not necessarily at the same time. You can have intimacy without sex and vice versa. Nice to have them together. And you also wrote about how the full fruition of that came to you, more particularly intimacy, with age.
Yes, and that's quite common for those who have wanted to continue to be sexually active. A lot of people were very surprised that I went into so much detail about sex in the book. But I said at the beginning of that section, look, a lot of women have closed up shop down there, and they've had a great love, they don't want another one, or they just never really cared that much, and they just don't want to continue down that particular pathway. But for those who do want to remain sexually active, it's important to know what's going on with our bodies, because you can mitigate a lot of the changes if you know what to do. And that ranges from sex toys to lubricants to fantasies to masturbation to a lot of things that usually that old people engage in, but you don't talk about it very much. And I decided it was important to talk about it, and I'm getting a lot of thanks for that from men and women.
I'm not surprised. I'm not surprised at all. I mean, the relationship with Richard, which you've talked about and written about, is very touching. And you did something on television with the two of you dancing that made tears come to my eyes.
Oh, we do. That's one form of exercise that we engage in. We dance together a lot. He has a jukebox, and we and we dance. And he's a music producer, so he's got a lot of great music. And intimacy is interesting. You can there's a coming together of the sexes, a gender balancing that takes place that we didn't understand a long time ago, but now we're beginning to realize that as men lose testosterone, and in proportion estrogen rises in men, and the opposite is true of women, testosterone rises in relation to estrogen, which women tend to lose. We become, the woman who said, "Oh God, whatever you want, honey," becomes "Hey, listen, I'm going to go out to my yoga class. Would you take the clothes to the cleaners?"
Right.
But at the same time, men tend to become more, more nurturing.
Mm-hmm.
Men who were not great fathers first time around become fabulous grandfathers.
Yeah.
Or out here in California, men in their 70s marry young women who have babies, and they turn out to be great fathers.
Yeah. It's a little hard on the children of the first marriage, but what the hell? Well,
it's not easy on the women of the children of the last marriage either.
That's right.
He comes to graduation in a wheelchair. But anyway, it's a very nice thing that happens between men and women who want to remain romantic and involved and intimate, whether there's sex involved or not. It's very, very beautiful, and I was happy to write about it. It was fun to research and write about it, and I'm experiencing it myself.
This is good. This is very good. It's very nice for your friends to see that happening. I want to talk briefly about, and then we'll come back because we're going to do another segment, about other things that has been happening in thy life, like the career resurrection, the Better Living Through Chemistry movie, the Butler movie, the Women's Media Center Gala, and so forth. But first, tell a little bit about Better Living Through Chemistry.
Well, I got this wild script out of the blue called Better Living Through Chemistry, and it's a black comedy that's quite outrageous. And I, for no discernible reason, I am I narrate the entire thing. You hear
cool.
my voice commenting on what's going on. And then I don't want to give away. I do appear at the end, and it's a very, very funny bit. And it's just a lot of fun to do, and it's going to start the festival circuit probably next January. But that was very cool with Sam Rockwell and Olivia Wilde, and it's going to be very funny. It's quite outrageous. And then I got offered to play a cameo as Nancy Reagan in The Butler, which is based on a true story of a black man who grew up in the Jim Crow South, and the white woman of the plantation owner, played, thank you very much, by Vanessa Redgrave.
Aha. Back together again since
in
Julia.
In a great scene, she says to him, "I'm going to teach you to be a house nigger."
Oh.
Meaning, I'm going to help you better yourself. But in those days, that was,
a compliment.
It was a good thing she was offering him, and as a result of her, and can you imagine what Vanessa Redgrave is going to sound like saying that? "I want to make you a house nigger."
Yeah.
And he becomes a butler in the White House through 5 administrations, starting with Truman, ending with Reagan. And so a lot of stars play cameos as the different presidents.
Wow.
And I get to play Nancy Reagan, and my Reagan is Alan Rickman, who...
What a pair.
I mean, when I first saw him in his Reagan persona, I started crying because he absolutely nailed him.
Well, the photograph that I saw of you as Nancy Reagan also took my breath away. I mean, it's cognitive dissonance given the political difference. We've got to take...
I know, but I'm told that she's not unhappy at all that I'm
sure
her.
She's very happy indeed. We've got to take a break right now, but we will come back with more of Jane Fonda and all sorts of good talk. I'm Robin Morgan, and you're listening to Women's Media Center Live, the talk show with a brain. We'll return in just a moment with more of Jane Fonda, so don't go away. Mark your calendars. On November 13, the WMC Women's Media Awards will celebrate 5 journalists for their contributions. The recipients are Pat Mitchell, President and CEO of the Paley Center for Media, Martha Nelson, Editorial Director of Time Inc., Laura Ling, Correspondent for Current TV and Vice President of Vanguard Journalism Unit, Lisa Ling, host of Oprah Winfrey Network's Our America with Lisa Ling, and Sarah Hoy, all-platform journalist at CNN. To buy tickets and sponsorships to the Women's Media Awards in New York, contact Media Awards at womensmediacenter.com.
You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 Gov.biz Radio, a CBS station.
And we are back with Jane Fonda. Jane, when you were in New Orleans filming The Butler, did you get a chance to check out the Ninth Ward? Because I think another hurricane had just passed through. Yes?
Yes, filming was postponed for 2 weeks because of Hurricane Isaac, which of course hit on the anniversary of Katrina. Shortly after Katrina, I had gone to New Orleans to help raise money. We took over the Superdome and actually turned it into a huge vagina, where women who had been there during the hurricane, many of whom had been raped and abused and terrorized, and were brought back, and we raised money for all kinds of projects that were involved with women in New Orleans. And I visited the Ninth Ward then, and I wanted to go back. So while I was there working on The Butler, I went to the lower Ninth Ward, and there's so many empty lots, so much has not been done. So many people never came back. These were homes that people owned that had been passed down in their family. Mm-hmm. And, they didn't have insurance. Yeah. And they've gone away and they've started new lives, and many of them haven't come back. Some have, but a great many haven't. But what is so beautiful in the middle of this is what Brad Pitt has done with his Do It Right project. You see all these houses that are being built. They're built to last. They're strong. They're solar. They're sustainable. They're all different. They each have their own personalities. And I could see on the faces of the people that are living there that they're happy. Yeah. That's it cool. Just made me really happy to see that, yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes it gives you hope. What Intelligence on the airways gives me hope because of the new Sorkin series. There are problems with it, but you're not one of them. You are playing a mogulette. I love
being in a position where I'm part Ted Turner and part Rupert Murdoch-ish.
The only problem is a woman would never attain.
It would be quite unusual for a woman to attain that position in real life, but right. The day will come, partly because of the work of the Women's Media Center, I believe.
I think we're trying.
But I tell you what, is it fun to be able to get those Sorkin words out of my mouth?
Of course.
And to work with Jeff Daniels and Sam Waterston. I mean, I just love being in the show, and I love that, I've been in Atlanta recently, and in Atlanta, you think, oh, God, it's so conservative. People stopping me in the street saying, oh, my gosh, I love the show so much, I'm addicted. I have a reason to watch television on Sunday night again. The other day, I go into Crate and Barrel, and I can't use a bad word but I have a great tagline in the first episode where I appear. Do you want to play golf, or do you want to around.
Yes, it's a
and
wonderful
people come up
line.
and say that to me now. In Crate & Barrel, the saleswoman, she saw me coming and she said, "You want to play golf or you want to F around?"
No,
It's a lot of fun.
You get the best lines, and it's definitely the best delivery. Also, you really, all the fitness pays off because you look like drop dead gorgeous.
Oh, thanks.
I've told you many times before, it strains my sense of sisterhood. It's, but I managed to transcend it being short. I take refuge in being of the three of us, between tall, willowy, beautiful you and Gloria. I am the short literary one.
You're the short, brilliant one.
I'm the short literary one.
Who was a star before any of us.
Well,
I want to remind our listeners that you were second only to Shirley Temple as a child star in a television show, which I used to watch, called I Remember Mama, and you were Dagmar.
What is with you and Gloria keep outing me on this? It's hilarious. But yes, I was. And here, you want to know something hilarious, which is that I am, with this program, returning to the same network that Mama was on. And that I spent. It is very bizarre. It's it's totally surreal.
It's so great that our little radio station's been bought by CBS.
Yes, well, there you go. Now, listen, you are coming east, I think, for the Women's Media Center Gala, and you're going to present the first time we've given a Lifetime Achievement Award, and it's to Pat Mitchell.
And I am so excited about this because she is, one of my very best friends, and she is, everyone's unique, but she's more unique than most people. She's somebody who knows how to bring people together so that magic and heavy-duty social change happens. She just has an ability that no one else has to bring people together, and she runs the Paley
Center
for Media, and has turned it into a happening place that really makes a difference. And I'm just really excited about it. And the Ling sisters are going to be there, and all kinds of very important people.
We're giving them the Sisterhood is Powerful Award, and of course we'll have a Blogger Award as well, which is voted for by the people who come to the website. But Pat, I'm just very thrilled at this because I cannot literally think of anybody who is more fitting for a Lifetime Achievement Award. She has been everything in media. She's been a reporter, she's been an anchor, she's been an editor, she's run networks, she's done programming, she was the head of PBS for a while. You name it in media, and she's been it. And she's been it with extraordinary integrity, a real consciousness of feminism, a real commitment to women. So, and we're going to name the award after her ever hereafter. So it'll be the Pat Mitchell Lifetime Achievement Awards. So, and that you're presenting it is just makes it perfect, makes it really, really cool.
I'm just thrilled to be able to do it.
Well, we've come a long way from the time when you sat up in the room and said, well, why don't we just start a Women's Media Center? And Gloria and I looked at each other and thought, well, I guess. And then you said, I'm going to put down a certain amount of money and we'll try to get somebody to match it. And we were off and running, and it was three crazy women, the Norns, I call us, or the Muses, and there, before you know it now, 7 years later, we have a radio show, we have a Lifetime Achievement Award, we have a gala.
We have one of the best websites around.
We
do. It's a fantastic website.
We do.
And we're making a difference.
We are making a difference. We've got a whole lot of male anchors apologizing for sexist remarks. We're working with young women. There's people who are hearing this can always go to the website, which is womensmediacenter.com. You're overhearing two very proud mothers here comparing baby pictures about the Women's Media Center. So anyway, I send you heaps of love. I look forward to seeing you very soon. Congratulations and mazel tov on the new house. Enjoy it and nest away.
You. And almost Happy New Year.
Almost Happy New Year. You mean almost Happy New Year, Jewish New Year?
Jewish New Year.
Well, it's also almost Happy Wiccan New Year, which is Halloween. So this is the time of year when they're all the New Years are upon us. I send you lots of love, dear one. I hope you have a terrific rest of the day and weekend.
And I send love to our listeners, and stay tuned.
And it's time for Fighting Words. So, we are about to have the first presidential debate. And thanks to public protest sparked by 3 teenage feminists, check out the podcast for our August 26th show about that. Women will again be present as moderators for the first time in 20 years. But the coverage and the focus of questions are examples of media cognitive dissonance. Women have registered and voted at higher rates than men every year since 1980 and comprise an even larger majority of swing voters. 72% of women are registered voters compared to 70% of men, yet the number of articles bylined by women on the 2012 election is only 26%. This is one reason that inclusive questions never get posed. Yes, we also ask male journalists to, as a matter of course and good journalism, field questions that include the female more than half of this country and world, and that therefore happen to have a major impact on the male half too. All issues are women's issues, but a lot of solutions elude us, all of us, because most of my media colleagues still treat women as an auxiliary rather than a central and transformative factor on every issue. Just look how the whole picture changes if the following 6 questions were ever put to the candidates in the upcoming debates. 1. Equal pay for equal work alone would cut the poverty rate of 2-income couples by 25%, cut the poverty rate for single mothers by half, and put $200 billion more a year into the economy. Yet we always discuss the economy without ever mentioning equal pay. How would your administration transform that discussion and the inequality? 2. The U.S. is the only modern democracy without a national system of child care. How will you help us catch up with other countries on this? 3. 90% of the most used health care plans are gender-rated, meaning that a female non-smoker might pay higher premiums than a male smoker. How would you remedy such discrimination? Oh, and would this include the Equal Rights Amendment to finally make sex discrimination as unconstitutional as race, religion, and national origin? 4. Many U.S. women are concerned about the impact of our foreign policy on women and girls in other countries. Afghanistan is the most blatant example, but others, from Bosnia to the Congo, include rape used as a weapon of war. Yet raped women who depend on U.S. foreign aid are denied the choice of an abortion. How would you include the female half of other countries in your foreign policy? 5. The Republican Party was the first to support the Equal Rights Amendment, and the Democratic Party back then did not benefit from the gender gap it now does. What do you think caused this reversal? And should there ever be such division? 6. A major new book from Columbia University Press called Sex and World Peace blends a mountain of scholarly data with detailed analysis and demonstrates once and for all that the security of women is the central factor in the security of the state and its incidence of conflict and war. The authors prove that the best predictor of military aggression by a state is not its economics, religion, or political system, but its violence against females. So I'd ask both candidates, how will this new evidence affect your foreign policy and peace efforts? If only we could get them to answer such questions. But first, we have to get such questions asked. That's it for this week. You've been listening to us on CBS station 1580 gov.biz radio in Washington, D.C., and on the web at WMClive.com, where you can find podcasts of previous shows. A few days after each program, a transcript posts at womensmediacenter.com. Portions of this program were taped earlier. Views expressed here do not represent the Women's Media Center. Here's the family for Women's Media Center Live. WMC President and for this program, Executive Producer Julie Burton. Senior Producer Crystal Williams-Chancellor. Technical Director Michelle Kinsey-Bruns. And Production Assistant Nora Eakin. Thanks for listening. I'm Robin Morgan, asking you to please remember, information is power. You can't have real democracy without it. Women are half the population. You can't have real democracy without us. That equation spells Women's Media Center Live.
Women's Media Center Live is brought to you by Regina Kulik Scully, our founding sponsor. You're listening to Women's Media Center Live with Robin Morgan on 1580 gov.biz radio, a CBS station.